Employers and working visa applicants in the US have been blindsided by an announcement from the Trump administration that will see the cost of an H-1B visa rise to $100,000 effective immediately. The decision from the White House appears to be part of a wider crackdown on immigration, but critics say the high fee could create new problems. Well, let's get more on this from Gil Guerra, immigration policy analyst at the Niskanen Center. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. Gil, good to have you on the program. Can you tell us a bit more about this new policy and how it came about?
Sure. So to begin, for your listeners who may not be familiar with the H-1B, it's really the United States' primary vehicle for high-skilled immigration. The most famous recipient, obviously, is Elon Musk, but the CEOs of companies like Alphabet, the parent company of Google, and also Microsoft have come in through this program. So it's something that has had a long-standing tie to the tech industry, a long-standing tie to high-skilled immigration. But under this administration, there's been a sense that a lot of these high-paying jobs, especially in the tech sector, have really been crowding out Americans who could take those jobs. So according to that rationale, they see adding an extra $100,000 fee basically as being a way to make sure that the jobs that are very high paying are going to people who really can't replace Americans and are going to people who are really of exceptional talent. That's a lot of the thinking behind it. It's something that I think is going to wind up really having unpredictable effects on the labor markets in the tech industry here in the United States, and also impacts in places like the Asia Pacific, where many H-1B recipients originally hail from.
Well, there are questions around whether the changes are even legal. There's been a lot of confusion over the details of the new policy.
Right. So the reason why there's confusion is because the rollout was incredibly chaotic. We had a press conference where at first the fee was announced as something that was going to be recurring on a yearly basis, which could, over the course of, say, 6 years, actually be $600,000 additionally for an employee. That was later revised by statements that were put out by the White House. So imagine if you are currently an H-1B recipient, or if you're an H-1B applicant, do you trust the written executive order and what that text says, or do you trust a tweet that's put out by the White House? It's something that I think is really characteristic of the way a lot of immigration policy has been done by this administration, which is typically grand pronouncements that are later scaled back via unofficial records or via unofficial text.
How might the changes to this visa impact future migration to the US?
I think that this program has primarily been used by mostly the largest group has been Indian nationals. They have historically comprised a little over 70% on average over the past 5 years. For the most recent year, they were 71% of that overall 85,000 person cap on the H-1B visa. It's something that matters a lot for the Indian economy because the people who come here via H-1B programs oftentimes send remittances back. But really, more than that, it's oftentimes a pipeline for legal immigration. It's a pipeline that we really encourage people, international students especially, to come through, to initially come here on a student visa, whether that's a J1 or an F1, and then later on transition to an H-1B visa. So one of the ways that this could wind up impacting the regions and countries like India, but also like China, that are big source countries for the United States for international students, is that they might wind up going somewhere else like the United Kingdom or Canada. Canada in particular actually already has a specialty visa that is designed to poach H-1B visa holders. Basically, if you already have an H-1B visa in the United States, you can automatically get up to 3 years of work residency in Canada. So I expect that we'll see if this fee is held up as something that is legal, which is a little dubious given the president's legal authority to actually implement fees of this nature. I expect that we could very well see shifts towards other countries in the Anglosphere, particularly Canada, the UK, perhaps even Australia, for international students who are very talented in fields like tech and other STEM fields, specifically from India and also from China.
Do you think it's possible that the US stands to lose more than India will with this policy change?
I think in the long run, I would say so. I think one of the things that we're really seeing as a trend, we had this massive wave, obviously, of globalization in the 90s, where talent was being allocated on a global scale to the most effective and productive economies. But one of the main challenges that is always difficult to see whenever you're currently in the moment trying to predict the long term, but it really seems that both for India, China, many other advanced economies, the main challenge in the future is going to be demographics. Birth rates everywhere across the world, virtually without exception, are falling. And so we're going to really have a need for having more people who can produce the kind of skills and who can fill the kind of roles that we need, especially in fields like artificial intelligence and other emerging tech fields that the United States really relies on Indian labor for. I think the current administration is betting that actually we can train people here in the United States at home to fill these jobs. But if the reality is that, say, 0.1% of the population can actually fulfill these jobs, do these skills, you really need populous economies like China and India to actually fill these roles. And one of their main problems is that young people and their economies are leaving. They really face many more demographic challenges than we do. The only reason the United States has not had these demographic challenges is because of immigration and because we remain a global talent hub for ambitious young people who want to come to the United States and actually help us. So I think in the short term, this will ultimately hurt India more because they simply don't have the capacity to absorb an extra 70,000 people every year in these sectors and give them the same kinds of opportunities and jobs. But in the long term, I think it will fundamentally undermine American competitiveness on the global stage.
And just lastly, right now, for those visa holders in the US at the moment, what are their options, do you think?
So the fee right now is, they've emphasized that it was only going to apply for new applicants. So basically, if you want to apply for an H-1B visa as a first-time applicant, then you have to submit an additional $100,000. The people who this is really going to hurt, though, are people who are currently here in the United States as international students, especially from China and from India, because their options are basically going to be either getting continuing education, whether that's a master's or a PhD, to keep going on some sort of a student visa route until the fee is maybe challenged and knocked out in court, or maybe until a different administration comes in and undoes the fee. Or they're going to have to find some kind of employment that will actually allow them to pay the $100,000 fee. That's more than the median salary for people who are starting out on H-1Bs. It's only a little under the median salary for people who have been working for a long time on H-1Bs. Thankfully for your listeners, Australia has the E3 visa, which allows them to work for here in the United States under high skilled occupations in a different way. The fee for that is only $200, which is a bit less, obviously, than $100,000. So Australians are safe, but it's really going to make a huge impact and create a lot of uncertainty for international students, especially in large numbers, those from India and from China.
Gil Guerra, really good to talk and get your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.